Welcome to Inside OUSD. I'm Communications Director John Sasaki. Today we are joined by Chief Academic Officer Dr. Sondra Aguilera, who today you are now the Acting Superintendent as Dr. Johnson-Trammell has taken a sabbatical. So welcome today. We are very happy to have you here. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. You started your career in education here in OUSD.
Yes, this is my 25th year in Oakland Unified School District. I started at Stonehurst Elementary, and I taught various grade levels in elementary school. I taught in the bilingual strand, we call it, and that means that I taught in English and Spanish for my students.
And so that was prior to it becoming Esperanza and Fred Korematsu Discovery Academy.
That's correct, yes. We were Stonehurst for some years, many years prior, and through some of the change initiatives that happened during that time, we did do the work to make two small schools out of Stonehurst Elementary.
And I mean, so you've been here and invested in the students of Oakland, in the schools of Oakland for a very long time. And then how did you transition from teaching into where you are now? What was your path?
Well, I started my leadership path at becoming a teacher on special assignment. And I had an opportunity to, co-author a grant in bilingual education. Then it was called Title VII, and I was able to receive funding for that grant, and we were able to then start what we call the dual language program on the campus. And from that, I was able to help develop programming. I was able to interact a lot with families and really make sure that our program was serving our students.
Just a side note, teacher on special assignment is what?
Teacher out of the classroom that is responsible for guiding a program and coaching teachers.
And so from there you became an assistant principal?
Correct, yes, an assistant principal. And then at the same time, I was tasked with leading one of the design teams to develop Esperanza as a small school.
And then what happened? You became principal, you became
principal there for another 7 years, and then after that I was asked to join the central office. I first joined the central office as a talent person, and then soon, like maybe a month after, there was an opening to be then what was called a network executive officer, which essentially is supervising an area of schools. And so I applied for that role, and I was able to assume that role, and that was under the leadership of Tony Smith and Maria Santos.
Is it fair to say that being a network's executive director, superintendent, is kind of like being a teacher of teachers and site leaders? Is it like, because you start off as a teacher, you're teaching kids, and then you move into a TSA role, you're kind of supervising, maybe kind of leading that way. Does the teaching kind of continue, just at a different level?
Yes, definitely, because you are still responsible for the curriculum implementation and the success of student outcomes. So you're definitely very connected to the curriculum, making sure that you know best practices in that curriculum, and then helping principals coach their teachers to ensure that they're serving students the best that they can.
And you're not even from here. You came to the Bay Area, why?
Well, I started as a freshman in college at Cal, and so I've
Go
done
Bears.
Go Bears. Yes, I've done all of my education at Cal. So I have my undergraduate from there. I also am part of the Principal Leadership Institute. So I received my master's and my administrative credential from Cal, and then I have my doctorate that I also received from Cal in the LEAP program. So I have been, in the Bay Area for many years. Right after high school, and I just loved it, and so I stayed. But I'm originally from Lakewood, California, which is a small town in Southern California.
Very good. And so you just can't get enough of OUSD.
I love it. I mean, there's just so much that draws me to stay in the Bay Area and, of course, in Oakland. And it's just like this constant passion in me that just will not give up, that we have so much work to still do in our district. And so I stay and I stick with it.
Now, it's fair to say you deal mostly with adults. You're mostly dealing with the site leaders and teachers and other central office staff. What is it? We were together on first day of school. What does it mean to you to be in schools and seeing the kids on a day like that?
Oh, it is my source of joy. And I make sure that in my weekly schedule, I get to go to school sites every week and see the good work that is happening in our schools. We have so many talented teachers and staff, and our principals and our families are always on the campus engaged in what's happening, and our kids are just engaged and really eager to learn. And so that's what fires me up and keeps me going. And I just love being at school sites.
Now, you mentioned joy. And of course, Joyful Schools is one of the 4 initiatives of the strategic plan. How important is all of that, especially as you move forward in the next several months as acting superintendent? How important is the strategic plan in guiding what you're going to be doing as acting superintendent?
So it is our focus. We have main areas that we are keyed into and just laser focused on implementing the best practices in those areas. The first initiative is focused on early learners, and that is our early literacy to make sure that we have great outcomes for students at every grade level, but especially by the time they get to 3rd grade. Then we go into initiative 2 is really about our high school and our middle school students to ensure that our students are graduating on time, that they're accessing challenging curriculum and receiving the support that they need to be successful. And initiative 3 is Joyful Schools, and that's really about the school culture and that our students and our families are experiencing joy in their everyday learning and interactions with our staff and in the, of course, in the curriculum as well, and that they're also attending facilities that are beautiful. That is very important to me, that we make sure that our learning spaces are spaces where our kids can really just see that they are safe and that they are taken care of. And then, of course, initiative 4 is making sure, and I feel like I'm a good example of that, retaining staff and making sure that we are invested in. And there's different ways to invest in staff. It's not only the professional learning, but it's also the community that you build to ensure that people want to stay in our school district.
And you're an example of being a part of the diverse staff as well, which is one of the things that we're really going after, is bringing more black and brown educators into Oakland.
It's very important to me that our staff reflects our student population. Mm-hmm. And with that, there's so much connection that is just inherent between our students and our families. And there's so much to build from because there's so much richness, when we're able to share in that way who we are and our vision for our students.
And it's fair to say, kind of touching on the Joyful Schools as well as the diverse and stable staff, those 2 things right there, joy in the schools and having fun and having educators that look like you, those 2 research shows they make a huge difference in performance of kids, right?
That is true. There's a way to give back to your community and a way to serve. And what better way do we exemplify that when we have a diverse working force that is there to support and serve our students?
Very good. Measure N is something that we cherish here in Oakland Unified because of all it does for our high school kids, especially giving them the pathways that really connect their education to possible careers down the road. What have you seen since you've been here 24 years, what have you seen as the change in the district since Measure N and those funds came into supporting our schools?
Well, we have better graduation rates as a result of our pathway work, and that is hands down the biggest strategy that is improving the outcomes that we have, the outcomes that we strive for in terms of our kids graduating and graduating ready for college if they choose to go, community, and career. And Measure N, now going to be called Measure H, is vital to that programming. It provides those real-life experiences for our students. There's also career technical education that we are focused on because I firmly believe that if, as a school district, we need to prepare our kids not only for college but also for career. There's not one pathway to having a successful life, And in the past, I feel like in some respects, we focused a little bit too much on college. While that is important, it doesn't mean that we don't pay attention to the skills that our kids need to be successful, and that could be found within a career pathway.
Yeah, I'm easily just thinking of Fremont High School with their carpentry, all the amazing work that those kids are able to do. They build buildings and they tear them down and all that. Giving kids at that age, we know not everybody's going to go to college. Some will go to trade school, some will do, and there are great trades jobs here in Oakland. So seeing them grow and learn like that has got to be inspiring as well.
Definitely, and I had a chance a few years back to travel with a group of students to experience the type of training that electricians experience. And I was so engaged. I was sitting there trying to figure out how to cut the wires correctly, and kids were showing me how to do that because they had already some training in that. And I just felt like I was so engaged as an adult, and I saw through the students how much they were learning from that experience, and then to see the competitive salaries that are possible as an electrician. I was very much convinced that there's not only one pathway to having a successful future, and we need to do more to build out this type of work for our kids.
You're kind of reminding me of the young man, Ahmed Muhammad, graduated from Oakland Tech. He's at Stanford now, and he's got Kids Cubed, because I've been able to see the kids doing these little science experiments, and they're so excited by what they see. So it's the hands-on learning is so important to what we do as well.
And the experience in that field. I mean, that is like the biggest support that we can give students, is that they won't have the full experience, but they'll get a glimpse into that world to see if that is a career pathway they want to continue on. And I didn't have that when I was going through high school. And I just see a different connection that I feel like students are making with their own education. I took my classes, I did well in my classes so I could go to college. But then I feel like there wasn't as much of a connection to what I was learning. But I see that differently as I see our students going through a pathway.
So now you are acting superintendent. How do you envision the next 3 months going?
So I'm so glad we talked about the strategic plan, because we are going to maintain our focus on the strategic plan. The next 3 months, it's like prime time for instruction. It's prime time for building those relationships, because it's really a foundational set of months that really set the tone for the school year. So that is the focus. My goal is to ensure that our district does not experience a leadership void during this, Dr. Kyla Johnson-Trammell, her sabbatical, and to ensure that we're still hitting those important milestones. And it's not just about me as the acting superintendent, but it is about the team. We have a senior leadership team. We're all responsible for very important aspects of our district and key milestones, and that's what I'll aim to focus on with the team, to ensure that we still hit those milestones, so that way when Dr. Johnson-Trammell does come back, she's able to pick up and continue the forward momentum that was maintained while she was on sabbatical.
And this is the kind of thing that could foretell a future as a superintendent, like a permanent job. Is that something that you want to do?
I get that question all the time, and I'm very much more the behind-the-scenes person. I've never just really, I guess, aspired to be a superintendent, but I don't know. I'm open to this experience, and we'll see how the next 3 months go. But it's not something that I aimed, to achieve. Really, even just like my experience here in Oakland Unified School District hasn't been like this set out plan. It has been opportunities that I've been tapped to do, and I've been asked to lead. And so I've done that, even in some respects where I felt like it was a reach. And that's what I'm, using. This is what I'm taking the acting superintendent role to be, is that an experience to see if that is something that I'm interested in. And then, perhaps I would want to be a superintendent in the future.
Lastly, is there anything that you'd like to say to our Spanish-speaking students and families?
Sí, me gustaría decir a las familias latinas que me habían dicho que soy la primera latina que va a tomar el papel de ser superintendente de nuestro distrito. Y yo estoy pensando en eso mucho, es pesado para mí, pero estoy aceptando el papel y que voy a trabajar para todos los alumnos en nuestro distrito para que tengamos unos meses excelentes durante este año escolar.
Great. All right. Dr. Aguilera, thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you for joining us on Inside OUSD. We'll see you next time.